with a big stare like Stone Cold with a few beers. Play the game, I end the game, I'm champion, I'm Triple H. Undertaker, I'm your maker, bury the brother like Kane. Ooh, 1-3, hit the tombstone, hit the choke slam on face. Ooh, yeah, like a macho heel, tell like I'm some muscle. If you sell a lot of tomatoes, I'ma keep a couple models. Ooh, and you may call me HBK. When I'm tuning up the vein, you best be getting in my way. Ooh, yeah, I'm degenerate, I love it, yes, I love it. If you wait down with that, then I got two words for you, suck it. Too sweet, put your fangs.
Welcome everyone to your longest running Australian wrestling podcast, Wrestle Radio Australia. I'm your host, Todd Eastman. It is great to be here with you this week. So much happening around the world in wrestling. Not so much here in Australia, but one really good thing that happened for Australian wrestling happened this week, and that is Robbie Eagles, your new IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion. Just like I said, happened on, I want to say Monday or Sunday. I can't remember at the moment. That's the kind of way things are nowadays. It's sort of all melting together. But no, beating Despery for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship. First Australian in history to win a New Japan Pro Wrestling Championship. So congratulations to Robbie. You won't meet a nicer guy in Australian wrestling than Robbie Eagles. You will not hear one person say something bad about the guy. It is so nice to see good things happen to good people, and Robbie is good people. So congratulations, mate. I cannot wait to see where this title reign goes, because there are 100 good matchups you can see happening with you and other junior heavyweights. Can't wait to see where it's going, and very excited for you for the future. And it is a really, really good thing for Australian wrestling. Just shows that we are among the best wrestlers in the world. And Robbie Eagles, definitely one of the best juniors in the world. He's proved it now by he is the new IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion. Lockdowns, of course, South Australia and Victoria. You guys are coming out of it. I'm recording this on Tuesday night, so as of midnight, you guys were out of it, I think. So congratulations. No shows coming up just yet in Adelaide or Melbourne, but that's just because of restrictions on capacity so far. As time goes on, those restrictions will be lifted and we can get back to doing what we've been doing for the last couple of months, or since January, I guess, which is putting on great shows and proving to the world that Australian wrestling is well and truly on the map. And let's just hope we can get out of this real soon. And for New South Wales, please stay safe, guys. I see the cases are still rising, which is the shits. But all we can do is just try and keep our heads down and hopefully get out of this thing as soon as possible. And then you guys can get back to doing what we love to see you guys do, especially PWA, Newey Pro, plenty of promotions around Sydney, IWA, that put on great shows. I just cannot wait to see you guys get back to doing what you're doing. It must be so frustrating for you guys, and I really do feel for you. But hopefully soon, all of this stuff will be cleared and we can get back to doing what we've been doing and doing it well in Australia, that is professional wrestling. I'm not going to do a wrap up because it takes too long at the end of the show. So I'm just going to do what I normally do now. So if you haven't already, guys, subscribe to Wrestle Radio Australia. You can do it on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, anywhere you get podcasts, anywhere you get your podcast from even, we're going to be there. So please give us a 5-star if you're on Apple Pods. Give us a rating and review. It helps us get inside more of the algorithms, and more people can see the show and hear about Australian professional wrestling. If you're on YouTube, subscribe and hit the notifications so you'll see when one of these shows pop up straight away. Make sure you like us on Facebook, Wrestle Radio Australia, and on Twitter and Instagram at Wrestle Radio AU, and on Twitter I am at Beast Eastman myself. If you want to support the local industry, I say this every week, they are not a sponsor, but I really do support them. Wrestlermerch.com. Pretty much, the majority of Australian wrestlers now have a store on wrestlermerch.com. So please go and search them out. Support the wrestlers, especially at this time. If you can throw a couple of dollars towards a Melbourne, Adelaide, a Sydney wrestler, that would be well deserved, well appreciated. Yeah, there we go. That's the word I'm looking for. Well appreciated. Hell of a broadcaster I am, especially at this time, because they can't even. It's not like they can even travel to states that are having shows and put them on. They're just stuck back where we were this time last year, I'm guessing. And it's a shitty place to be. So if we can support them in any way, also on Wrestler Merch, there are promotions, have stores. So if you want us to support a promotion, get on the store and buy a t-shirt or buy a t-shirt with your promotion, your favorite promotion or your favorite wrestler. Support them and do what we do here every week, and that is support Australian professional wrestling. No real way to support us, like I say, every week if you hang on to the end of the show, but this is probably new to you if you're at the start of the show. We've got new designs for the WRA logo and that are up on redbubble.com. But anything that's made from that at the moment, well, all the time, goes to Gotcha for Life and Beyond Blue, which is Gotcha for Life, which is two charities that we really do support here in at Wrestle Radio Australia. And at the moment, I think they've got a 25% off sale on t-shirts and clothing. So if you want to go on there and put the code in, and you get 25% off, and you also help to support a charity. And also, if you get a cool shirt with WRA, maybe you can wear around and people can see what the show's about and maybe get themselves educated in professional wrestling in Australia. Speaking of wrestler merch, as I did before, my guest this week has a wrestler merch store. So please go and visit it. His name is Edward Dusk. I really do enjoy this guy's character. So I wanted to get him on to talk about that and to talk about the philosophy behind the character and how he's developed it, and also the angles he's been doing recently at MCW with Danny Psycho, and then also sort of like a mini angle with Mitch Waterman, which I really did find interesting how he adapts his character to doing these sort of things, because it really is a fairly nuanced character that sort of, for him to have a meaningful match, it needs some sort of mental motivation, which is really interesting. And we talk all about that, and we'll do that right after this, right here at Wrestle Radio Australia.
Watching your skin crawl these past few months has been delightful. At this point, do you regret training me? Letting me into your world? I know you do. Because you see me as your greatest failure, when in reality, I am your greatest creation. I'm your legacy. And yet you resent me for becoming the version of you that you were always too afraid to be. You have spent the past year trying to run from me, like I'm something you can just simply escape. So my little games are going to continue, Danny, until you face your fate. And I want you to remember what happened last time we went down that little rabbit hole, when I left you covered in your own blood, when I ended your career. Except this time, I'm not going to be satisfied with just ending your career. No. What I want this time is so much more. So, I'll see you soon, Danny.
I am joined by one of Victoria's brightest young stars, Edward Dusk. How are you today, mate?
I'm very good, sir. How are you?
I'm a lot better than you guys, unfortunately for you. So battling through. How is we talked a little bit off mic, but how is the group handling this version of lockdown in Victoria? Because you just got extended by another week, I think it was today.
Another week of being stuck inside. Yeah. I think it's one of those, I think collectively it's moved from a feeling of being sad and dreary to just kind of being angry about things. I think that's where I'm at. I'm just frustrated at this point. I've moved past trying to rationalize it or, be upset. I'm just going to be angry for a while, I think. Just pen that up, build that up.
I must admit, I like how before Like everyone's anger was sort of like in Victoria. It seemed like everyone's anger was sort of like directed at dictator Dan, but now it's just like no, it's all Gladys. It's not. It's not. It's if she'd have just sorted things out, we'd be okay right now.
It's probably a nice like sense of I don't know the right word, not redemption, but it's probably nice to be able to point the finger at someone else. It doesn't feel like the state is attacking Dan and then Dan is trying to settle the state. We can all just collectively yell at someone else, pass the blame, as it were.
Yeah, this is the big heel, not me. I'm just I'm just trying to be the good guy here.
Dan's trying to play off a nice face turn before this is all over.
Yeah, well, we see because he had the fall, so that was his. So he's trying to redeem. It's a redemption story. It's exactly right.
Flair coming back after the plane crash.
Oh, geez, it's a hell of a long bow to draw. Dan Andrews and Ric Flair. Oof.
Nah, wear suits.
I wanted to have you on because I am a big fan of the Dusk character. Because it's if anyone has listened to these podcasts or watched these podcasts for any amount of time, know that I'm very much into characters and stories. And your character is one of those ones that it's the type of character that I like because it seems very visceral. I think is the only way I can describe it. Because you started in PCW, yeah? Was that?
Yes, that's where I started.
Yeah, because, and then this is more to my detriment, I've never really followed PCW until not too long ago when they started getting on Fight and all that. I thought, I saw something. I was like, these guys are really good. I need to sort of research more into them. When I first noticed you is when you did the whole Danny Psycho angle at MCW. Was that something that you had an idea for and went to them, or did MCW go, we've got this idea and it fits your character perfectly?
It was a loose idea. I'm not sure if Danny crafted it himself first, or if it was him and someone from MCW, but Danny came with the original, like a broad stroke, the skeleton. And being very creative as I am, it was something I love. I don't think I could ever book something. I think it would be too much. But for me and like my character, I'm always full of ideas. So it was something where he kind of came and this is the broad idea. Wouldn't like something like this, and a bit of back and forth of me kind of injecting what I believe, like this is the idea and this is like what Dusk would do with that idea. Like if we want to do that, this is how I would rationalize why he would do it. What's the reason for it and how he would go about it and why he would go about it that way, and all those rabbit holes you could dig into. And it kind of expanded into the set idea that we went forward with, which was the videos and the mask and kind of baiting him after matches. And it all just kind of grew from there. Obviously kind of got squandered by COVID and the original shutdown, but that original idea, it was kind of like this beginning, and then we kind of took it and stretched it into what we thought we could work with, and then we had what we were hoping would be how it would transpire, and then, as I said, COVID kind of bring it all to a halt for a time being.
The funny thing is, because I think it was like a year before that, I had an idea that was a lot very similar to that idea. And I had two guys that they didn't really get the grasp of what I was going on about. Like they did it, but it didn't really come off as, like it came off okay, but not the way it was. And then when you started that whole angle, I was sending them the vignettes and they're like going, this is what I was talking about when I said, they're like, oh, I'm just like, obviously they just weren't the right people for that thing. Is it, was the character Dusk always sort of like this sort of the character, or was it something that's evolved, or was it something like I can fit this to this role that they need me? I can change the character up a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's definitely evolved without a doubt. It did not start anywhere like what it is now. The analogy I always give is it started as a bad attempt at trying to be like Christian, because I loved Edge and Christian when I was young and a fan. And when I was first told you need a character and all these things, I was like, well, I'll be like Christian because I love Christian. Yeah. And it never worked. And then, yeah, slowly over time, it changed and evolved into what it is now. And so doing like the MCW angle with like the stalking and the tormenting of Danny and his family, it was by no means like would he do that? Because Dusk has always been a psychopath and, you know, an absolute sadist. So in going out of his way to take this long, broad approach to just tormenting someone purely for the payoff of I'm going to really, really piss you off, and that will help me achieve my grander goal of corrupting you, was not something like completely out of line at all. I think with both MCW and Deathmatch Down Under as well, it's a much more refined version. Like what I've pretty much everything post-COVID is what I've dubbed like the first proper finished version of the character, like the version 1, without needing, like it'll obviously continue to evolve, but the first version I have where I'm like, that's it. That is what I've been working towards, so to speak.
And I like how you adapted that character, and then also with your match just not long ago with Winter Warfare with Mitch, you took that whole cerebral approach now where you've like everyone has left you. And it's not just the fact that you were sort of doing that before, but during the match,
yes,
you stayed in that character. And it's something I've been saying over the last couple of shows when I talk to guys. How hard is it for you to stay in that mind frame of that character while you're in the match, as opposed to, because I know when you see a lot of guys out there, they've got a really good character, a really good gimmick. Then as soon as the bell rings, they're just wrestler. And that's like, go on.
Sorry.
No, go on.
There's the old, there's two things that come to answer the question plainly. I don't struggle really. It is very much a switch in me. I've heard Steve Austin say it where like the minute it was time to go, there was only Stone Cold. The actual Steve Austin was gone. He's not here anymore. Stone Cold's here. And for me, it's very much the same where the minute the music hits, the minute it's time to be on, I'm on. And the minute I go back, we can turn it off. But while I'm out there on the stage, it's Dusk. It doesn't, the mannerisms and things, they're all things that used to be it'd be cool if I did this right now. Whereas now they're second nature, like the Mitch match. And then the Danny match I had earlier in the year are good examples of, there's a similar spot in both where I give them both a whip into the buckles and they fall down and I kind of slither in near them. I did it with Danny because I just thought it in the moment. And then the Mitch thing, in the Mitch match, I did the same thing just on instinct, watching it back. Like it wasn't I'll do that again because it looked really good last time. It was this is my natural response to this now. You're on the ground in pain and I want to be as close as I can and watch you ravel in it, grovel in it rather. And then, sorry.
And even the way you were just like, because you were almost talking to him not loud enough for the crowd to hear you as well. So it was just one of those things that sort of makes the crowd they lean in going, what did he just say? because it was something that the cameras picked up, but I don't know how much of the crowd would have picked up. You just going, you're all alone. Everyone has left you. So that I'm like, and that when I was watching that, and I think I even put like the character is dead on. It's so good that you stay in that during the match.
It definitely comes from like, you know, the your character is you turned to 11 thing, and it didn't when I first started, and that's where the Christian thing came from, where I looked at who I was and was like, me turned to 11 is just me. That's boring. And so I tried to be someone else, and it didn't work. And then Dusk slowly evolved into something I could attach myself to, and now it's become like this entire character. But is that like separation of being in there and doing things and not thinking about like, not so much the repercussions, but not thinking about like, oh, I hope I don't do something and someone makes fun of me. Like it's Edward Dusk doing things. And then when Edward Dusk is resting, it's complete 180. It's two different things, you know. But little things like that, like just talking to him, not yelling at him or trying to broadcast out, but just talking to him. It's those little cerebral moments of, you can craft a story on a cold match. It's just Mitch. Like Mitch has got his story. I'm just kind of coming in. So how do you make this match mean something? Mitch, obviously, as I said, he's the Ballroom Brawl winner. He's got a world title shot ahead of him somewhere down the line. So who am I in this? What do I do? And how do we turn this from just a match to something that you can begin to get behind and enjoy and invest in? And I felt that little story of trying to pull him down and telling him like, you're all on your own, this is meant to be your big moment, and look at you. It's a way to give the story more. It shows who I am as a character, but also creates like a little footnote in Mitch's grand journey of wherever it may go. There's this chapter where, you know, he doubted himself because of his match with Edward Dusk. There was a moment where he thought, you know what, I am all alone. And he overcome it to my detriment, but it creates that nice little story. It's just a one-off, but it's a lot better than if we just went out and did some stuff for 10 minutes.
And I suppose that's that's kind of what the challenge would be or will be for your character, is finding that in every opponent for you to try and, like, going forward, for you to try and go, this is what I want to get out of this. This is what I want. Because it's not really, Dusk isn't really a character that would do just a dream match. Do you know what I mean? It's sort of like,
it needs to be more.
He sort of needs like a motive to want to go. This is the way I see it anyway, is that he needs a motive to want to go to fight this opponent. Otherwise, why would I do it? There's nothing I'm going to get out of this. So why would I fight this guy? Whereas like with Waterman, it's like I can take something from him because he's lost this and he's lost that. And if I can just take his pride or something away from him, maybe down the track, I can challenge him for that contract sort of deal.
It's literally that. And those, I guess, goals or those, whatever Dusk sees as, this is what I get out of it. I think as a character, it can break down to, like, that's a bit of a grander thing. Like, well, I'm going to go and wrestle Mitch. And if I beat him, I've beaten the Ballroom Brawl winner, which obviously means I'm probably entitled to something that will higher my place in the company, which will give me more power, which is what I want. I want more power at all points in time. But at the very least, maybe I can weaken him and then he'll come back to me. Or like even the Danny Psycho match earlier on in the year, and they put it over, they mentioned it in commentary as well. It was this Danny's retirement, again, kind of cut it short, but we have this match and Danny wins. Like, he wins the fall, I submit. But the whole concept of the match was me telling him that he's this rundown, broken, useless old man now. and he needs to be who he really is again. And then I get him to absolutely massacre me. And then on the next show, he comes out, he's a completely different person, challenges Brooksy for the world title, and is a new character because I've won. I didn't win the match, sure, but Dusk's objective is to never have a W in the column and to go home with the winner's purse. The objective was to break Danny, and that's what I did. So I've won. I've got what I've wanted. I walk away a winner. Could care less about your wins and losses. And it can come down to that. The motive could be as simple as, you know what? I do just want to win because I don't want you to win, and I want to take that away from you. Or you could construct an entire feud where someone just wants to beat Dusk, someone just to win the match, and the bell rings. It's the big, finally get the chance, walk up, low blow, get disqualified, and go, congratulations, you won, good work. And you just so Dusk can take that away from him, like, you beat me by disqualification, well done. Now you don't get to have your big, I beat him because I took that away from you. Like, the possibilities are endless. And I think that's what makes really having like that character aspect to wrestling the best part.
Because literally your character is sort of one that you could maybe possibly not win a match, but when you're going into a match, people still want to see you get your ass kicked. They still want to see you lose, even though that you might have won a match in God knows how long. Everything you've done before that, leading up to it, makes them angry enough that they want to see you get your ass kicked. And that's something that's not easy to do nowadays. And it's I think now, especially nowadays, because there's so many, and I hate the phrase, and I think I've said it before, I hate the phrase tweener. There's so many of them nowadays that they want to be a heel, but they want to have fans, which is just, it goes against, like, for me as an old school person and someone who's like, I'm a manager, so I'm a heel. I don't want anyone to like me. I go out of my way to make people hate me because that's my job. My job is to people to want to hate us that much that they want to see the babyface win. And that's one of the things I enjoy about you, is because you seem very much like that as well. Like, you don't want to, because I even had I had a talk with Redneck Kung Fu. She does all the shirt designs and that sort of thing.
I think so.
She's done like stuff for like Adam Cole and all of those guys. She's based up here in Brisbane, so she comes to shows and we have chats and that. And she's like, if you ever want a shirt designed, like, hit me up and I'll do it. It's like, I literally said, well, I don't want people buying my merch, even if I did have that. And straight away she goes, I kind of respect that. I was like, well, if people like me, then I think I'm doing something wrong.
I think I love one of my favorites, like the old heel, not wanting to sell merch or not do the merchandise stand. And one of my favorite stories I've heard from an independent scene was the Pariah Boys putting their merch to be twice as expensive as everyone else's. Because if you want a Pariah shirt, you're going to have to put out a little extra money because it's a Pariah shirt. And that, that's a nice inverse to the, well, I'm a heel, so I won't have merch. You don't get to have my semblance of, you don't get to be, I'm a fan. No, I don't have that. I don't want you to be my fan. Whereas that's a nice inverse to, you can be, but you're going to wear my shirt and tell everyone that you're a massive sucker because you paid $50 for a shirt that's worth $20.
Well, I remember back in the day when I was working with Chris Basso, and we were doing a heel run. We brought out these shirts that just had world class my ass, like basically giving us shit, and people were just buying them. We're like, do they not realize that they're giving us money? Okay, cool, that's cool. You can tell you hate us all you want, as long as you're paying us, you keep hating us.
I think WWE did a Cena Sucks shirt not long ago.
Yeah,
and
I think they did.
Would laugh at thinking of all the people that have bought this Cena Sucks shirt going, that's really going to stick it to him. He's really going to know how I feel. And he's over there collecting all his royalty checks going, wow, they're really buying this shirt.
Yeah. What's like
I'd love to do something like that. That would be beautiful.
Well, I remember hearing a story. I think it was on a Jim Cornette podcast. He was talking about this wrestler that would put a plant in the front row that had an 8x10 of him. And he would walk up to him and rip it off him and rip him and yell to the crowd, anyone else that buys these, I will rip them and kick your ass. So they just sold out every time.
Go and buy the 8x10.
Yeah.
Smart. Very smart.
So you must have been really happy with, because for a long time there, PCW just didn't want their guys to branch out and work for other feds. How happy were you when they sort of finally broke that down and said, go out and thing, and then you can still come back and work on these shows? Because it must have been somewhat restraining beforehand, because you'd want to learn from other places and still, because PCW is a great setup. It's a great look. It's a great, there's a lot of good wrestlers there, but there's always that thing where like, I wouldn't mind going to see what working at MCW was like, or working at, I still love PCW as my home, but I wouldn't mind going to check these places out. So how was that when they finally decided, yeah, we need to let you guys sort of spread your wings?
It's a maybe I've always heard this the story of PCW, you know, not letting people go places. And look, maybe it was a rule that was before my time, but in my time since coming in, I've never encountered it at all. The first booking I had that was outside of PCW was organized by PCW. They came to me and said, hey, I've been, you know, in contact with this promotion. They'd love to have you down. Would you like to do it? I said, yeah, of course. And they set up the whole thing. And I've never encountered any blowback from going anywhere else. I think to kind of, I guess, take that and run with it, I think seeing the PCW talent being other places now is amazing, because I do think that both with, again, the talent branching out, but also PCW being on Fight and having their own network as well, I think it's showing people kind of what was this hidden gem, which has been consistently very good for a very long time. And I think what's happening now is not so much that it's getting better, not to say that it's not, but it's more that it's just out there for people to see and access more. And so people are kind of looking at it and going, oh my God, where has this been this entire time? And it's like, just here, just waiting for you to find it. It's not come out of nowhere. But yeah, seeing people that are going out and gaining more exposure, and then inverse, seeing people find PCW, having it be my home where I started, rather, it's beautiful to see those, you know, because I can remember when, you know, I went to another show and being met with you're allowed to be here. I thought that wasn't allowed. It's like, no, that's fine. I'm allowed to be here. But it was that weird thing of, for something that was tucked away that no one knew about it, everyone really seemed to know about it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we'll take that as for what it is. But yeah, I think the exposure that PCW is getting at the moment and will continue to get is amazing to see, because there's some like really, really talented people there just doing great stuff, and people are there like, oh, where have you been for, you know, all this time? And they've just been there killing it. Like Mark Cage has been someone I've looked at as like that, like if I could be on that level when I was first starting there and training, and would, you know, do like a training session with him when I was first starting, and thinking like, wow, if only I could view wrestling like he does. And to go from a point of this is a peer to someone who it's like, you know, like now we're here together. It's crazy to think of.
And it only just letting them do all these other promotions, in my opinion, then does nothing but strengthen like PCW as a brand, because they're like, as you said, where are these guys from? Oh, they wrestled at PCW down at the end of that entertainment center. Like they go to the entertainment center, they see that setup, which is amazing. It's like that is envious. Like any promotion would be envious of having that as their home base for a setup. It reminds me so much of like almost the old school NWA network shows.
Yeah, the old studio setups.
Yeah, that's something I love. It's one of my bucket list things that when eventually we can travel around freely to actually get down and see one of those shows. And the biggest drawback, I think, at the moment for PCW is I don't get to see they don't sort of stream live on Fight enough for me. You know what I mean? I would love to see like at least once a month, see one of their shows streaming like PWA do. That like I think I've said it before. When I had Bonza and Storm on, was like my ideal setup for me would be like one state a week. There's a promotion that does a live streaming show, because I'd be quite happy to sit there on a Friday night and like pay to watch a show. Then on a Saturday night, maybe go to my local and watch like the local shows when I do eventually retire and pack it away. But that to me is something that I really would love to see. I'd love for 1 week there to be an MCW show, 1 week to be a PCW show, a PWA show, an EPW show, a Riot City show, a Wrestle Rampage show, because there's enough around the country that you could do it and have it almost like a weekly show. This week's show is coming from Perth. This week's show is coming from Adelaide. This week's show is coming from Melbourne. Do you know what I mean? And I think it's people like PWA and the PCW that have really at the moment sort of they are cornering the market in that live streaming, that it's sort of like sent out a message to the rest of Australia. Look, this is where we are. You guys need to catch up because we're doing things right now.
I mean, it's kind of something that, you know, everyone says that Australia is this hidden gem, for lack of a better term, in the wrestling world. Maybe not so much anymore. I think definitely before COVID, we were one of the hottest scenes, especially with, you know, what PWA and MCW were doing before kind of that COVID hit. And I've always been hopeful that when everything finally, you know, kind of can get rolling, I mean, like at the moment, PCW's just had to push back Destiny, one of their biggest events of the year. Deathmatch Down Under's had to push back one of their events. Like, once we can get to a point where everyone can be running on a consistent basis, I think that bubble that we just popped is, I'm hoping that it will be the same thing. And then we're not just going to be kind of the old toy. I hope we're still going to be that amazing thing that people have found. I think being the first country to kind of get crowds back gave us that nice energy for a while, because no one else had crowds, but we did. And yeah, getting on Fight, Deathmatch on IWTV, there's, again, it's that added exposure. It's not this cornered thing where you need to go out of your way to try and find it. It's ready, it's accessible, it's easy to find. You know, it's not something where you need to buy the DVD, wait for the DVD to come, watch the DVD, and then you've watched the 3-hour show and you're like, cool, all right, now what? You can pay like what, $5 on some on-demand services, or I think it's like $10 or $15 sometimes for a fight stream, and you're off. Go for it. There you go. There's a whole show for you at your fingertips, ready to roll.
And it's like in a lot of cases, like I know with Fight Plus, you can watch all the back catalog, but to see live wrestling coming from Australia, and you can live tweet while you're watching the show and talk to other fans around the country, and shit, if people have gotten up at late at night or whenever they have to do to watch it around the world, because God knows that we've done it for years, having to like on a Monday morning get up at like 9:30 to watch WrestleMania because it goes for 17 hours. That sort of thing. So like it's and you were right for a long time there, because we were lucky enough to be able to open up early. we sort of cornered that market of we're the only ones doing live wrestling right now with a crowd. And I would just love to see other fans. I understand it's not as simple as get a camera, get a thing, set it up, hook up a dongle, you've got your internet, you're fine. It's a lot more involved. There's a lot more involved in all that. But I just really hope that guys like MCW start getting to live streaming, and guys like Riot City eventually get into live streaming, and EPW. I know EPW were fairly close from the last time I talked to David Storm for that. And that would be hard because it's so early. The time difference there would be like 4 o'clock in the afternoon for us. But it would be great for a pre-show for guys. Like people can pre-show an EPW show and then go out and watch like an MCW show later on that night.
I don't think we're too far away from everyone doing live streaming. I mean, I'm sure if anyone's not doing it, they're looking at someone that is and thinking, well, we need to do that before we fall behind. You need to, obviously at the end of the day, we're all working together. We all want to, high tides rise all ships. But at the same time, there's always going to be that competitive nature, both with the talent, the promotions, everyone involved. And I think that's it. I'm sure, if EPW is not far off, I dare say, MCW and Riot City all won't be far off either. And then maybe, and then hopefully in not too long distant future, you can have that where every week you get a different state's live stream running, and it's just a smorgasbord of Australian wrestling at your fingertips whenever you want it.
Because I think that's the thing. I think it's like so many times you hear from like just a random or a sort of like a not really initiated into Australian wrestling fan just going, oh, do you reckon Australia could have a WWE sort of federation where like every week they go to it's like, no, we don't need that. We have standalone promotions that can work together and still be like separate promotions and present a weekly show. And it would still be, and every show is as good as the next. There's no real drop off from watching a PWA show to then watching the next week a PCW show to watching it's all like they're all very at that sort of level at the moment where it's great to see that there's not something where you look at it and go, oh, that's not, I wouldn't have put that on streaming. Everything right now is like, these guys are really good. And that's got to be something that you couldn't have really said 5 years ago. You couldn't have really said every promotion that are the sort of the premier promotions are on that sort of the same level. There was sort of a hierarchy almost of this. I think everything's sort of like everyone's sort of leveled up to where that standard is now. And now I think PWA are really trying to push that to get it higher. And these other promotions are sort of always nipping at them going, no, we're keeping up. It's so good to see. For yourself, it's hard to say at the moment because of the way we are, but how much are you looking to get to these other states to try and break into these other places?
Well, that's the big caveat, I suppose, is once everything's back to normal.
Yeah.
But there's nowhere you'd be stupid to say, I don't want to wrestle there. So it's probably a stupid response to say, I want to wrestle everywhere, but I really do. Especially now that everyone like puts their shows up, because like with, Wrestle Rampage and EPW and Riot City just throwing things on YouTube, it's no longer like, again, it's not hidden behind anything. You just watch it and see the talent for what it is. Riot City was like the first promotion that I kind of found when I first like got into Australian wrestling, other than like Victorian promotions that I could watch. And like there's people there that I've watched now for years and just wanted to, the chance to wrestle them. And the same goes for everyone. I mean, it was only in a tag team capacity, but got to work with, Istra from Wrestle Rampage, Candy Lee from all the way over in New Zealand, Rochelle Rogue, like people that I had never shared a ring with before, and immediately thought, all right, yeah, there's something, if I could only get over there, or if you could come back again, maybe we can do this again. And it's always, an exciting experience working with someone new. And again, it's that creative outlet. It's that creative mind of mine that looks at it and, will watch someone, like Davis Storm wrestle and think, all right, so who is Davis Storm? Who is Edward Dusk? And how would they go together? Or, if I look at, someone like the almost the number one for the longest time has been Zach Sabbath in RCW, because the characters are very similar. I've always thought, I'd love to just see what we could come up with whether it be a match or a feud. Like, it's one of those things where I literally like salivate at the mouth at the thought of all the possibilities of what I could do with other people, not just, in the ring, but creatively.
I remember watching that the tag match you were talking about at Deathmatch Down Under, and I started watching it. I'm going, how did this like heel face? I think you were like pretty much the only heel on that team. I'm like, how does this going to work? It just reminded me so much of that old school Survivor Series teams. Remember when they did that one year where it was like heels and faces were on the same team, and like I was just waiting for that moment where all the faces would just turn on you or something, because I'm
too good at making friends. I mean, History is now my new best friend, so he wasn't going to turn on me. He adores me.
Well, History's got that level of grizzle that makes him like enjoy someone who's an asshole.
True.
It's why we're friends.
I was going to say similar minds.
Yeah. Yes. Well, we can't really talk about what's coming up because we don't know what's coming up. At the moment, do you really have one true, like, is MCW where you sort of want to put the majority of your focus at, or is it Deathmatch Down Under you want to focus on, or is it maybe PCW, go back there and try and really put your stamp on that promotion? Is there any one real promotion at the moment that you were like, I want, when people talk about X promotion, they're talking about Edward Dusk?
I mean, again, the easy answer is all of them. I mean, that would be the ideal scenario. The old, Ric Flair territories where I rule over everyone with an iron tyrannic fist. But there's I look at PCW as one where it's probably the only place where this kind of refined version of Edward Dusk doesn't dwell yet. There's kind of a different version of the character there, just for the continuity of that place. And it's something where I would love to get this version there. I think with the way the PCW crowd is, it's something that would be magic. I think that they respond very well to hero villain. And I think the character very much lends itself to being that. It is a villain. It's not just, the heel. It is the villain. It's the big bad at the end of the dark tunnel. And I think in front of that crowd, it would work tremendously. And there's that added bonus of, I was the Ignition champion, the mid-card belt, for lack of a better term, for well over a year. So I would love to, whether it's reclaiming that or getting to take that step up, in that, that place where it all begins is always going to feel special. But in that same vein, I look at places like Deathmatch and MCW, and I don't see a Edward Dusk there. I think I bring something very different to the table, something that's unique in itself. And I would love to be able to continue doing that. And as I said, build it to be as big as it can be everywhere, because of what we mentioned earlier, which is that that competitive nature of, I'm not going to be satisfied being able to say, well, this one promotion, I'm pretty big here. I would love for you to be able to look at Victorian wrestling as a whole and not be able to not mention my name. Mm-hmm. There's those people that kind of transcend just the one place that they inhabit. It's kind of whole scene. It's the big names. Like at the moment, you probably look at your Brooksy, Slex, people like that kind of have this domain. and to be able to even, that's what you want to aspire to. You don't want to aspire to be second best. You want to aspire to be the best. So yeah, again, it's probably a bit of a cheap answer, but I would very much enjoy just taking it and running with it as fast and as viciously as I could, and building it to be that, just take over the whole state.
Well, the thing is too, with your character is very much like villain, like very much, and that is something that there's not a hell of a lot at the moment in I guess professional wrestling in general, but very much in Australian wrestling. There's no. I mean, I know like Rocky's very good at that. It's very like, you know what Rocky is. You know Rocky's a heel, and Brooksy is, you know what Brooksy is. You know he's a face, and there's a reason why the crowds get behind that one way or the other, because they know what these people are. I think the biggest problem at the moment is that I don't know if it's either the guys don't want to commit to being one or the other, or is it they like the fact that they can try and act like heels but still have fans? Or do you know what I mean? I think the biggest thing that's missing in wrestling in general for me at the moment is the lack of the big bad guy, the lack of the big good guy. I mean, you could tell just this past weekend when Roman Reigns was in that ring at the end of Money in the Bank and the crowd was booing the hell out of him, and John Cena's music hit, who the crowd have been sick of for years and were booing him just outright because he'd been around for too long. They tore the roof off that place because a true babyface had finally shown up. And
it's what it is. It's what wrestling has been since day one. You want the hero, you want the villain, and you want them to be those things. I think, I think wrestling's definitely moved past the point where you can just be, I'm the clean-cut babyface, well, I'm the nasty, grisly heel. You can have room for where you can have a villain be the villain purely because of like one trait that they have, versus, you can have a baby face be someone who's not exactly, the most clean-cut, rule-following guy, but they'll love him all the same because it's their guy. Like, then they'll just back their hero. But I think that's it. I think either way, you've got to commit. It's the not being a tweener.
Yes.
You don't need to. You can be the good guy, or you can be the hero, or you can be the villain. It doesn't matter about what you do. It doesn't, like, the way that I've always kind of rationalized it, I suppose, in my head, is it's the overcoming of an obstacle, regardless of what your character does. Or, I can come out being the exact same character I am, but when faced with an obstacle is where I reveal to the audience what kind of person I am.
Exactly right.
The match with, I'll toot my own horn, the match with Mitch and I. Mitch is not a clean-cut babyface. He's, the Brat Pack have always been, a group of degenerates, and Mitch isn't just going to come out and be, Bob Backlund now. He's still got that attitude about him. He's still a smug little prick. But he can do those things. But when he's faced with an obstacle, he looks to overcome it. He faces the obstacle head on and tries and fights with everything he's got to overcome that obstacle. Whereas Dusk faces that obstacle and finds the easiest way to just get around it. Because I don't want to overcome it. Towards the end of the match, I'm just screaming at him to stay down because I don't know what else to do. But he's just not staying down, and that's it. Another one I always can think of is Royce Chambers, because everyone always just wants to say he does flips. But the man's got his character down, and he's a babyface. He's not your smiling, kissing baby's babyface, but he's a babyface because he commits to that, and because when that character faces an obstacle, he overcomes it. And that's what you need to commit to, I think. You don't need to be, I'm somewhere in between, and you're one or the other.
Mm.
You can use the Stone Cold excuse, but Stone Cold was doing all the stuff he was doing. But when Vince McMahon was there and he was stunning the boss or whatever he was doing, he was facing his obstacle. He wasn't running around it, but it was Vince McMahon who was, I'll throw Kane and Undertaker at you. Oh shit, now I'll throw The Rock at you. I'll do everything I can to just avoid actually facing my problem. Whereas Stone Cold was like, I'm going to take my obstacle down. Therefore, babyface, heel.
Yeah, the argument I had with some guys was a while ago. They were trying to say, "Oh no, the thing is like characters are all shades of grey nowadays. You can be both ways." I said, "Shades of grey." Okay, you do realize that grey is a boring fucking color, right?
That's a good response.
They're like, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, how many things do you look at and go, I want to paint that grey? That'll look great, grey." No one, because no one fucking feels either way about it. Like
it's that if you don't commit either way to anything, you're just sitting in the middle doing nothing. And if you're not doing anything, then you are doing nothing, and nothing's boring.
That's exactly right. Yeah, make the crowd feel one way or the other about you. If they don't feel any way, if they don't feel any way about you, then they don't give a shit about you.
You've got to know what kind of response you want. I think no one goes out there and goes, "Man, I can't wait for the crowd to be indifferent."
yeah. It was my thing is like I made a joke to a guy because he went out there and something didn't happen. I said, "Well, the crowd went mild, mate. The crowd went mild when you did that."
It's a weird. I feel like everyone's past that stage of wanting to be the tweener. I think now. I feel it has. I think a lot of the things that people used to say were the big issues in wrestling aren't anymore, or at the very least we've kind of found like everyone's just kind of getting along. I mean, you'd be stupid to look at wrestling and not think that it's absolutely thriving, because it absolutely is. It is just that. I think that's what, as I said, I think when I look, I'm not saying that Australian doesn't have heels, because there's absolutely like villains out there. I mean, Rocky, ruled over Adelaide as the villain for, almost 2 years, I'm pretty sure.
And he's he's sort of doing the same thing now in MCW. Like I think it's the way it's worked so well is because he's just straight out there telling people what he is.
That's it. There's no way to perceive Rocky. No one's in the crowd going, "Oh, this Rocky guy's all right." Everyone is there thinking he is a smug prick.
Yeah.
Because he is.
Yeah. I think I wrote in my review, he has the best shit-eating grin in Australian wrestling.
It's a gorgeous shit-eating.
It really is. It's just like, it's one of those ones, and I love Rocky, but I'm like, I fucking hate that smile. It's just the smile you want to wipe off. Like, I want to give you a high five in the face with a brick when I see that smile.
The photo I always look for is always the one where I've got a nice big grin on my face. It's the best one. Always the best one.
Yeah. Yeah. It's nothing better than when a crowd hates you for you to turn around and smile at them. That is one of my favorite things to do as a heel. Mate, thank you so much for joining us this week. For people that want to follow Edward Dusk and everything related to you, and for when the world finally starts up back again and we've got shows on, how can they do that? How can they catch up with you on social medias, mate?
So on Twitter and Instagram at @DuskEternal_, and then there's a YouTube channel, which is just Edward Dusk. It's the only one. And then Edward Dusk on Facebook as well, if you want to give that a follow too. But mainly active on the Instagram and the Twitter.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us, mate. Like I said before, one of the brightest young stars coming out of Melbourne at the moment. Huge things in the future. I'm a big fan of your work, mate. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Too sweet, too sweet, put your fangs up. Too sweet, pour another cup. Let's be busy 23.